Okay, so welcome to the second day of intermediate algebra, and we are going to be going over, let me share that document. Let's see. Go to my OneDrive. And if you notice, if you saw it when you first logged in, it was the attendance. We're going to do attendance first, but I wanted you to change your colors to what was appropriate. Okay, here we go. All right. And let me see. Today I'm going to be starting to mark on my PowerPoints here. I saw, is there anyone read that they're having trouble with link? Okay, you guys all look good. Okay, you're all green. Okay, good. So everyone that has green, you're not having any problems. Perfect. Okay, and I went over yesterday on how to get into our link. You can get into my math lab, you can get into E360 or the email that I sent you to. Okay, now do you all have that worksheet printed out for today? And this is the path. You're going to go to My Math Lab, then you're going to go to Course Tools, and then Document Sharing, and it's under Category Worksheets from your instructor. So I'm going to go ahead and open that up for you. So when you sign into My Math Lab, you're going to find our class, and it's going to be the web conferencing. And for my online students, it would be the online class. Then down about halfway is Course Tools. Then 2 down from that is Document Sharing. Okay, and I know most of you already probably printed this out already, but this is where you're going to go in the future to print it out. And we have another worksheet for tomorrow. So if you click on Worksheets from your instructor, okay, that's under Categories up here, and it's the third one down. And the one on the bottom is the one we're going to do today, 1.1 to 1.2. And I try to put the title of those sections so you know what we're going to be covering today. So just basic concepts and different things about real numbers. And then tomorrow is going to be this 1.3, 1.4 worksheet. And WS is for worksheet, just so you know. Okay, so this is where you go to print out worksheets ahead of time. And what did I want to tell you? Back in my math lab over here, there is a calendar. So over on the left-hand side, if you click on Course Info, where it's the syllabus and calendar, this is all of our syllabus information, which you had homework 1 questions on. And way down the bottom, if you scroll, it's a course calendar. So you can see what we're working on every day. So yesterday was orientation, and you did homework 1-0. Today we're going to go over sections 1.1 and 1.2 on the worksheet. And then tomorrow we're going to go over 1.3, 1.4 on the worksheet. Okay, so that's the order, and then Thursday is going to be 2.1. So whatever lesson we do that day, the next day is, can someone type in the website for John while I'm talking, please? So then we're doing 1.1, 1.2 today. The homework then would be due by tomorrow. So you're going to work on the homework tonight. And then if we have questions tomorrow in class, I will go over those questions, and then the homework's due by the end of tomorrow. Okay? All right. Thank you so much, Emma. LP, yes, learning plan. We had to do that for kind of curriculum projects and stuff like that. So that's what it was, learning plan or lesson plan. That's what we're going to do. Okay, and if you want to get to the assignments, remember it's the next button down under assignments. Now whenever I go to assignments, I always click the show all button, and the computer's slow, I think, this first week. So after that, hopefully it won't be. But there's a show all button. Make sure that's yellow, so if you notice now the quiz appeared. If you don't click show all, you won't see quizzes and tests, and I don't want you to miss those because you can't make up quizzes at all. Okay? But if you notice, the homework 1-0 was due yesterday, and 1.1, 2 is due, it's due tonight. Okay? So keep up with that. Yes, John, and I sent you in that email, and it has our course ID number. It's the second attachment, okay? Yep. So that's what you would want to do is work on that. Okay. Now, another place, you know that calendar I just showed? If you go back to Course Tools Document Sharing, I try and, whatever I send you, if it's a document, I try and post it so you guys can just print it out. So if you go down to first, or up to first week helpful documents, if you go all the way down the bottom, there's the syllabus and calendar together. The second one up is just the calendar alone. Okay, Melody, that's fine, perfect. Melody, go ahead and change your color to green if you're not having any problems with link. Okay, and I haven't even taken roll yet, so you're okay. All right, while I'm taking roll, I want you guys to open up that, well, get out the worksheet, and it looks like this. And I'm going to save it so that I can type on it, okay? All right. And I want you to read over that worksheet and attempt what you can, okay? So underneath this little blue box right here, there is a place for graphing. Go ahead and try graphing these numbers. Then down here where it says now, try exercise 2. See if you can do any of these. The definitions of whole numbers are up above. So go ahead and try filling out that worksheet as much as you can while I take roll. Okay? All right. Let's see. Okay. And when I call your name, could you please just change your color to yellow? Change your color to yellow. All right. Isiosa, Lacey Austin, Derek Ladeau, Sarah Bonk, Ella Zube, Emma Foss, Danielle Hazelton, John Jerichowick. Did I say that right, John?
Jerichowick.
Jerichowick. Okay. Jerichowick. Jake Juby. Oh, and Jake, can you stay at the end of class real quick? I want to talk to you real quick. Melody Lee, Scott Mateski, John Matthews, Brad Nelson. Oh, and we have 2 Johns here, so it's going to take me a while just to make sure I'm talking to the right John. Okay. Tish Nelson, Karsten Ness, Naomi Stanley, Amanda Statz. Ooh, Jessica, you're new. Okay, give me a second, Jessica. Amanda Statz, we got 2. Sunny Yang. Sunny, I thought you said you went. Okay, Sunny, I'll talk to you at the end of class, okay? Awesome. Okay, now let me get Jessica Wilcoxon. Can you unmute yourself and talk for a little bit?
Yep, hi.
When did you just add the class?
This morning. Just this morning.
Okay, because I didn't get any notification yet. So if you wouldn't mind staying at the end of class, but what I need to do is I need to send you also the registration information for my math lab, so you can do all your homework and quizzes and tests, some tests online, okay?
Okay.
Okay, so just remind me to send you that email. So if for whatever reason, do you have a class at 2?
Nope.
Okay, so we'll talk about that after class so I can send it to you and everything. Okay, and John Jerichowick, if you wanted to stay too, we could make sure that you know how to get signed in. Okay, all right, if you guys don't mind, I am going to not share my video anymore because you're just going to see the top of my head, and that's, you know, not the most beautiful thing. Okay, math is, so I'm just going to show you the math worksheet. So in section 1.1, we basically have, it's talking about the basic concepts, but what we do first is we talk about different types of numbers, okay? And I made this worksheet for you. It is in your book, but I try to consolidate it so that it was kind of all in one area. So all the little symbols for the different types of numbers are over on the left-hand side. I noticed in your homework sometimes it does use this symbol, okay? But natural numbers, think of natural numbers like counting numbers. So when you start counting, don't you count with 1, 2, 3, 4? Okay, so that's what those numbers are. And this is just set notation over on the right-hand side. Whole numbers are like counting numbers, but they start with the number 0. And the way I remember is this letter O looks like a 0. So whole numbers starts with 0. Integers are positive and negative numbers. So you'll see negative and positive, negative, positive, negative, positive, and the number 0 is neither negative or positive. The dot, dot, dot are called ellipses. That just means it follows that pattern forever in that direction. So to the left would be negative 4, negative 5, negative 6, and so forth. To the right, 4, 5, 6, and so forth. Okay. Rational numbers. Yes, you do not have to buy the textbook. That is correct, Scott. When you bought that access code, and some of you did a temporary pass, you eventually will have to buy the access code or just pay Pearson directly before the 17 days are up. So then you have the textbook right in the class. Okay? Yes, John, the access code is in the email I sent you in the second document. Okay. All right, rational numbers. Now, just so you know, look down at real numbers. Real numbers are rational and irrational together. It's made up of everything. And if you scroll down a little bit, some people like to look at this little diagram here. Real numbers are made up of rational and irrational. So a number is either going to be rational or it's going to be irrational. It cannot be both. Okay? All right. And in order for it to be a real number, it has to be either rational or irrational. Now let's look at rational and irrational. Rational numbers, think of something being rational, it kind of makes sense, it's not too complicated. Well, that's rational numbers, even though we're dealing with fractions. Okay. Over on the left-hand side, I wrote down the definition. The first one is the book. It can be written as a fraction of 2 integers. Okay. Now, in parentheses is something that I've added. Is a decimal, the number will either repeat forever or it will terminate or end. So let's look over here at some examples. So as a decimal, repeats or ends. Okay, so let's look at 4. 4 is a rational number because it can be written as a fraction, 4 over 1, of integers, 4 over 1. Okay, let's look at this one right here. Negative 9/2 is either negative 9 over 2, or you can put the negative on the outside. Well, negative 9 in the numerator is an integer, and 2 in the denominator is an integer. One's just negative and the other one's positive. If I change that to a decimal, it's negative 4.5. And that's what it's talking about over here, that it ends. This decimal does not keep going on forever and look weird. Okay, let's look at this last one over here, 0.6. And what does that bar mean? Does anybody know?
Is it because it goes on and on and on?
Perfect. Is that Sunny talking?
It was me and somebody else, Lacey. And somebody
Lacey?
else.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. The only reason I ask is because I can't see everyone's... Okay, now I can. Sometimes I can't see everyone's name at once. So, okay, perfect. It means it keeps repeating. So it's 0.66666666 forever. Does anybody know what the fraction is of that? And it's probably easier if you can't type that.
2/3.
2/3. Thank you, John, right?
Yeah.
Okay, and if you look at the
Somebody
numerator.
else.
Oh, yeah. Yep. 2/3. If you look at the numerator, that's an integer, positive or negative whole number. And the denominator, 3, is also an integer. Are we okay on rationals right now? Okay, if you're unmuted, please mute yourself. Okay, now let's look at irrational. Irrational numbers over here. A number that cannot be written as a fraction of 2 integers. You just can't do it. But I like to look at it as a decimal. That to me makes more sense for irrational. It never repeats and never ends. So it's kind of complicated. And that's when you think of irrational, something being irrational or a person being irrational. They're kind of complicated. They don't make sense or whatever. Okay, so that's how I think of it. A very famous irrational number is pi. Does anybody know what pi is? And you can type it if you want. Does anybody know it by heart? Isiosa?
I was just going to say 3.14.
Perfect. Now, this is what I have memorized, 3.1415926, but there's more numbers, right? Put that on your calculator. Do y'all know how to do that? Hit the pi button on your calculator and then hit enter. And I know I said you didn't have to have your calculator today. It was probably the only thing we were going to use it for. But it actually goes on and on forever. That's why I have a dot, dot, dot there. Okay? So pi is irrational. You cannot make that a fraction. If you did pi over 1, nope, you can't do that. It's not really a true fraction because pi is not an integer. 1 is in the denominator, but the numerator is not an integer, so you can't really do over 1. Okay, do the square root of 2. Someone, if you do have a calculator, I apologize, or square root of 3, rather. What is the square root of 3? Square root of 3. Be careful, that's 3 squared. Do just the opposite. Square root of 3. 1.73205. And does it keep going, Brad? Right? Oh, okay. Now, if it doesn't on your calculator, you have to change your calculator to like floating digits. Yeah, it does go on. So make sure on your calculator it does. It's like a floating, or you go to 9 digits, and so you kind of know. But that goes on and on forever. Up here, there was a square root of 9. This square root of 9 is 3, and that's why that's rational, because we can just write 3 over 1. Yeah, go ahead.
Mrs. Parker, on my calculator, I press square root of 3, and then I press equal, and then it just says square root of 3.
Okay. On your calculator, you're going to have to change the display somehow. What type of calculator do you have? Casio?
Casio 115.
I am not the best with Casios. I like Texas Instruments better. So on the syllabus, I kind of recommend TI 30.
Wait, they recommended this calculator for the last year, so.
Oh, but you have different teachers, right?
Yeah.
Who was your teacher?
Jim Bachenfeld.
Yeah, so every teacher's a little bit different. Personally, I think Texas Instrument is way easier to work with.
What is it called? Texas?
They usually say TI.
TI?
Yep, calculator. I think in my syllabus I say get a Texas Instruments or TI and then 30 SX2 or something like that. I personally like Texas Instruments. So any calculator, Texas Instruments is fine, scientific. Yeah. Now, you can keep your calculator, Lacey. If you're on the Eau Claire campus, I would be happy to go over it with you. If you're at a different campus, they have academic services, and they would be willing to help you too. Okay?
I'll just go out and get the calculator, I guess.
I just don't want you spending extra money if you don't have to.
Yeah, I just want to be on the same page with you, so.
Yeah. Brad, what calculator do you have, though? Isn't it like the TI Inspire or something? That's like one of the brandest, newest, and it does, it's like so intense. Yeah. Yours is like one of the newest ones that has so many functions that, yeah, you definitely have to read your textbook to figure out. It's not a very simple calculator, so that's why, Brad. You're right, though. I remember that now. Okay, so those are the different numbers. Now we're going to go down. Just so you know how to graph, let's just graph a couple numbers here. I just put 0 in the middle, and then I just use tick marks evenly spaced to the right. So 1, 2, 3, 4, and it keeps going. -1, -2, -3, -4. But the arrows indicate that it keeps going in each direction. Okay, if I were to graph -2, I'm just going to put a dot right in the middle. All right. On your homework, if you have something like this, what you would do in your homework is, do you have to graph? Did anyone work ahead on their homework? Okay, did you have to graph a point on the line, Brad? Okay, so I'm going to find that, or if you can tell me which one it is really quick, what homework number it is. So that's 1-1.2, and it doesn't tell you what's what. And I just started with question 4. Yeah, was it towards the beginning of the homework? I can't remember if you have to graph in this one. Okay, I'm just going to go through. Try number 8. Or was it last night's homework? Was it last night's homework you had a graph? I think it was. Homework 1-0. Oh, let me see. I'm probably wasting too much time, but that's okay. If you ever want to get into a homework that's past due, you can always improve my score right here. And any problem that has not been done, you're going to get a 50% reduction. So if you notice right now, I did 2 questions yesterday. My score is 16.7%. I'm going to improve my score. Yes, homeworks will switch around. You are right. You will not get the exact same homework assignment as someone else. Correct. So if I do, let's say question 6, I'm just guessing. Oh, okay. Here it is. Here's a graphing on a number line. All you have to do is take this dot and move it to where they want you to. They want you to graph 5. Check answer. Nice work. So I got question 6 right. I'm going to save this. But if you notice, I'm going to go to my grades. I go to my grades. Where's HParker? Oh, I don't want that grade. Come on. That grade book. I got 2.5 points out of 12 instead of 3 out of 12 because that third problem I only got half correct because it was late. But I still got half credit. So if you ever still need to do a few problems from a homework assignment, it's always good to go back into it because you're going to earn more points. Okay, even though it's half credit, you're still going to earn points. Okay, going back, let's look at a couple other ones. If I did -3.5, -3.5 is actually here because it's in between -3 and -4. It's halfway between -3 and -4. Is it 4/3, 1 1/3? So here's 1 and about 1/3 way is there. And pi is approximately 3.14, so really close. Really close. Okay, now let's go down and do this now try exercise 2. Okay, these are your numbers, and in your homework, they're going to give you a set of numbers that you have to choose from. And looking at above, you have all of your definitions of what is a whole number, what's an integer, and so forth. And they're going to want you in your homework to fill in the blanks. So whole numbers. And they give you an example up here of what a whole number is. So for whole numbers, if we look at this list, which ones would be whole numbers? No, correct, Naomi. Whole numbers, think of the letter O. So it starts with a 0, and it works its way up. Good. So 0 is a whole number, and any other whole number? 13 is a whole number. So in your homework assignment, they're going to have this box. And you just type in the number 0, put a comma, and then type 13. And I don't even think you have to have a space in between. Okay, and then let's go on to integers. So what would an integer be? Of all of these numbers, what would an integer be? Good. -7 is an integer. 0 is also an integer. 13 is also an integer. And does anybody see there's one more? Good. I think I know what you're saying, Isiosa. This right here, I couldn't get, it should be negative square root of 25. What is the square root of 25? 5. So this is really negative 5. So that is also, you guys are doing really good on that instant message thing, typing your answers. Good, negative 5. Now, when you type in your answer, I would just go from left to right. That's just me. Negative 7, 0, 13. And then I think they want you to write negative square root of 25. But I wonder if you were to put negative 5, if it would mark it wrong. So that you can try on your own. Sometimes my math lab is picky and sometimes it's not. Okay, let's go on to rational numbers. What's a rational number? Ah, good. Negative 4/5 is rational. Let me just do an arrow there. Negative 4/5. What's another rational? Good, so you're looking for fractions. 2.7. Why is 2.7 a rational? Good. It does not repeat. Good. Very good. As a decimal, it does not repeat. As a fraction, it's 2 7/10. But if I change that to an improper, do you remember how to do that? Multiply 10 times 2, which is 20, and then add 7. So that's 27/10. As a fraction, there's an integer in the numerator and an integer in the denominator. So, yep, rational numbers would be 2.7 and negative 4.5, negative 4/5 so far. What else? What are some other ones? There's more. There's more.
Negative 7.
Yeah, negative 7 is rational. What about another one?
0.
All of the integers. Who said that? Derek, good job. All of these integers from before are always going to be rationals. Because an integer, you can always put it over 1, over 1, over 1. So now they're rational. Now, here's a trick. In my math lab, when you're doing, let's say, the integer answer, go ahead and, before you hit enter, go ahead and copy that. And then I want you to paste it here. Now, this is before you hit enter for your answer. You can copy, then hit enter, and then paste it in the rationals because really, our answers are going to be the same for integers. And we're just going to add the negative 4/5, and we're going to add the 2.7. And then you only have to enter in two new answers at the end. And the order does not matter. Does that make sense to everybody? Okay. Now, I would copy that whole blue box. The whole blue box, if you think about it, the whole blue box is rational. That is part of the real numbers, right? So if I were you and you're doing this assignment, copy that. You know part of it is going to go down here in real numbers, and you're going to paste it. Okay. So up to here was the integer part, okay, and so forth. We'll go on. Now what about irrational? Which ones are irrational? Yeah, there you go. The rest of them. The rest of them are going to be irrational. So square root of 3 and pi. Make sure you put a comma in between. So now we had copied down the longest one. Negative 7, 0, 13, negative square root of 25, negative 4/5, 2.7, and now we have the irrationals along with it. We have square root of 3 and pi. I'm just kind of giving you tricks on what is going to make your life a little bit easier. You can certainly type that all yourself, but that would be all the real numbers. Okie doke? I know it's a little tight in here. I tried to get this worksheet in just 4 pages. Questions. Now, if you have a question, go ahead and change your color to red. If I don't notice you, just unmute yourself and or type something in the box. Okay?
Mrs. Parker, so all of those numbers are real numbers then?
Correct. Good
Okay.
job. Rational and irrational combined make up all the real numbers. Okay? And the diagram to the left of this little exercise here is just a visual, if that does help you. Okay. Now on the bottom of this page, there's a lot of true and false questions. We are going to answer these true or false questions, and if it is false, we're going to say, why is it false? Okay. So you might have to look up at your whole worksheet to kind of figure this out. But think about this. Are some integers whole numbers? Are some integers whole numbers? Okay? Good? Good. An integer. 0 is an integer and it's a whole number. 54 is an integer and it's a whole number. Some of them are whole numbers. Not all of integers, but just some of them. The negative ones would not be whole. Okay, 2. Every real number is irrational. And some people like to look at this picture. And let me go down just one. False. Okay, so we're talking about 2. Every real number is irrational. Okay, so why is it false? Now look up here. These are all the real numbers. Do the real numbers, are they only irrational?
No, they have rational numbers too.
Perfect. Good job, Lacey. And this is a little bit abbreviation for rational. Some are rational. That's it. That's all you have to explain. Okay, 3 we're going to come back to because we haven't talked about absolute value. But does anybody, you want to guess 3? And we'll come back and check. Good. Go ahead and put true for number 3, and we'll talk about it again when we do absolute value, but I'll give you the answer. It's true. Good job. Derek, Naomi, Derek, Anisios, and Sarah. Okay. Now let's go to number 4. Every whole number is a real number. Every whole is a real number. Look at the picture. Are wholes inside of real numbers? Every time you look at a whole number, is it going to be real? True. Good. So think about your whole numbers. 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 into infinity. They're all going to be real. Okay, 5. Some rational numbers are irrational. Good. Sunny, why do you say false? I don't know if Sunny can talk. Be able to talk every day, and I know this is just the first week, but try and be able to unmute yourself. Good, Sunny.
Got it? Oh, yeah.
Yep.
Okay. Yeah, well, numbers can only be either one or the other, rational or irrational.
Very good. Perfect. I like that, Sunny. Okay. Number can be either rational or irrational, not both. And if you look at this diagram, do you see there's this line going right down the middle? There is no overlapping. It's rational or it's irrational. Very good. 6. Some rational numbers are integers. Good. True. Like, you don't have to write this, but a rational number of 4 is an integer. 4 over 1 is because it's 4. I could do -3. That's -3 over 1. And so forth. Okay. 7, last one. Every integer is, is an irrational number. False. Why false? An integer is always what type of number? Very good, Tish. And that's all you have to do for explanations. Okay? All right. Now we're going to the second page. We're talking about 2 different things that start with the letter A. Additive inverse is really just the opposite. Additive inverse just means opposite. So if something's positive, it's additive inverse. Additive Oh, I hate that when it does that. It kind of just erases what I just wrote. I think I have to be on the full page. Any number is additive, inverse, or opposite. It's going to be the opposite. So if it starts out negative, it's going to go to positive. Okay. Absolute value. Let's talk about absolute value here. Absolute value, the definition of it is this. Go ahead and write this down. Absolute value really represents the distance from zero on a number line. So, the absolute value of any number is positive. And I know I'm abbreviating there. Of any number is positive. Okay, so here's an example. After my computer gets done saving, the absolute value looks like two vertical lines. So the absolute value of 2 is equal to, let me get my cursor, hold on. I don't like my cursor down there. Okay. The absolute value of 2 is 2. The absolute value of negative 2 is also 2. Now if I look at a number line, here's 0, here's 2, and here's negative 2, right? If you think of the distance from 0, isn't the distance from 0 to each way? If you're going to the left, you're going to the right. That's what absolute value means. Okay? Now, when you do the absolute value, it's whatever number is inside the absolute value. Okay, so that's what it's talking about, the absolute value of a number. That's the number inside the absolute value. Okay, let's go over here, just a chart. Additive inverse of 5.7. Now think of that as the opposite. Negative 5.7. Going down, the opposite of negative 34 would be positive 34. The opposite of positive a half is negative a half. Does anybody know the opposite of 0? Just 0. 0 is neither positive nor negative, so it's kind of weird. It's really talking about, that's it. That's all I'll say. Okay. Absolute value. The absolute value of 5.7, sorry, 2 verticals, is 5.7. The absolute value of negative 34 is 34. Absolute value of negative a half is positive a half, and the absolute value of 0 is 0. If you notice, all of these answers are positive for absolute value. Okay, I like to talk about both of these at the same time, because in your homework it asks you at the same time. I don't want you to get them confused. Okay, we don't talk about opposite too much, but we are going to, on the next area here, we're going to talk about absolute value. Okay, so down here, the absolute value of 32, what is it, guys? And you can just type in the answer, that's fine. 32. What's the absolute value of negative 32? Okay, good, 32. You guys are good. Now, this is where it gets tricky, is when the negative is outside of the absolute value. This really means the opposite of. That is what that red negative means. So the opposite of the absolute value of negative 32. This is hard for some people. So what that really means is the opposite of, what is the absolute value of negative 32? 32. So that's, this part is 32. Now what's the opposite of 32? Negative 32. So some people go straight from here to here. That's okay, but that's why it equals that. Okay, the one underneath it, though, you do not see any absolute value. It's really the opposite of negative 32. What's the opposite of negative 32? 32. Do you see the difference? So the one on top says the opposite of the absolute value of negative 32, and the absolute value of any number is positive. So it's really saying the opposite of 32, which is negative 32. And the bottom was saying was the opposite of a negative number. Good. Very good. Yep, Jacob, that's another way of thinking of it. Okay. Now you do the one on the right, this one up here, the opposite of the absolute value of 32 minus 2. We haven't done too much like that, have we, at all? What you want to do is you want to do what's in absolute value first. So what is 32 minus 2? 30, right? Okay, so a lot of people, some will say positive 30, some will say negative 30. One of them is right. What's the absolute value of 30? 30, right? Now we're saying what is the opposite of 30? Negative 30. So negative 30 is the correct answer, and that was a tough one. Good job. Okay, and what's the absolute value of 0? Just 0. Okie doke. So that's a little bit about absolute values. We'll have some of that for your homework. Just going to scroll up a little bit. Now we're going to get into inequalities. Inequalities. Okay, I put this little chart here. It is in your book, but it talks about everything below here is an inequality, and up here is an equality, okay? That separates it. Inequality means it's not equal to, okay? It's not necessarily equal to. Okay, so some examples on the left-hand side. I wrote as 5/3 is equal to 1 2/3. It's just a different way of writing it. Or it's equal to 1.6 repeating. Okay, that is your equality. The inequality would be like 1/3 does not equal 0.3. Why is that? 1/3 is actually not equal to 0.3. Oh, Lacey, you're welcome. No problem. 1/3 is actually equal to what? 0.3 repeating. 0.3 repeating. So be very careful on that. So those are actually not equal to. 0.3 is equal to 3/10, not 1/3. And so some people get a little bit confused on that. All right. Less than. Let's do -6 is less than -4. If you ever get stuck, put it on a number line. And the one to the left is always going to be the lesser of the two. All right, let's do greater than. 10 is greater than -10. Again, you can put it on a number line. Here's -10, here's 0, here's 10. The one to the right is always the greater. And have you guys ever been taught like Pac-Man or an alligator? Think of this as like the mouth of the alligator or Pac-Man, and you always want to eat the bigger number. So Pac-Man here, alligator, is going to always eat the bigger number, if that helps. All right. -8 is less than or equal to +5. A negative number is always less than a positive number. Now the equal to means or. Less than or equal to. Now the last one's going to kind of shock you. This is true. 2 is greater than or equal to 2. Why? What? How is that true? 2 is greater than or equal to 2? The or equal to part. Good job. or equal to. So it's the or, it could be one or the other. Okay, so I wanted to make sure I showed you that. 2 is equal to 2. 2 is greater than or equal to 2. It's the or equal to. That's the part that matters. Okay, which is smaller? Absolute value of 27 or the opposite of the absolute value of 27? Whew. Okay, let's just look at that. Absolute value of 27 is 27. This means the opposite of absolute value of negative 45 is 45. Okay, which is smaller? Good. This is smaller. Now rewrite it using either the less than or greater than. You can either write 27 is greater than negative 45, or, very good, Isiosa, negative 45 is less than 27. Either is okay on the homework. Either is okay on the homework. And when you're doing the homework, assignments, when you're doing the homework, you will have buttons on the left-hand side to choose from for greater than and less than and so forth. And I wish they would kind of describe each question so I could go to them really quickly. There you go. Well, see these symbols on the left? Once I click in here in this box, I can now use these symbols. So I would say negative, and you just put the negative button on your keyboard, negative 24 is less than negative 17. And I hit enter. Woohoo, I got it right, and now I get a good green check. Ooh, I'm glad I guessed right. All right, back to the worksheet. I scroll down on page 2. Is it true or false? So again, you're kind of working each side of the, and I think I have to stay on this one page for it to not act weird. But you're going to work on this side first. The opposite of negative 4 is 4. On this side, you're saying, what's the absolute value of 8 minus 4? What's the absolute value of 4? Okay, 4 compared to 4. Is that true? 4 is greater than or equal to 4. True. And for your homework, you probably only have to enter. Just answer true. Okay, this homework, you will not have to turn in your work, but tomorrow's homework, I do want you to turn in your work for some problems. Okay, and you'll see that, we'll talk about that tomorrow. Okay, all right. Now we're going to get into section 1.2. Section 1.2 is going into adding, subtracting, multiplying, and dividing real numbers. So I say sign numbers because you have positive or negative. And we may not be able to get through this whole worksheet. So what is your responsibility then tonight? Read it. Okay, so good. Read it all. Now, if you look at this, we're going to fill in the blanks here, and then we're going to do a couple examples. So, a positive plus another positive is always going to be a positive number. A negative plus a negative is always going to be a, negative answer, negative number. So let's just look at these two over here. Positive 1 plus positive 4 is 5, right? Negative 1 plus negative 4 is negative 5. Okay, so like let's say you owe someone $1 and then you owe them $4 more. Don't you owe them a total of $5? All right, now and this you can think of on the number line too. You're starting off at negative 1, so you owe them negative $1. Then you're owing them 4 more in the whole. So if you count over 4 more, you're actually at negative 5, right? So the book describes it that way. The book describes it that way. But for positives and negatives, when you're adding them, now don't think of multiplying. People get multiplying and adding a little bit mixed up. But think of this one. 1 plus negative 4, if you look at a number line, let's say you have $1 and you owe someone $4. So you start off at 1, but now you owe them 4. how much, you give them $1, but how much then do you actually still owe them? Good. So that's the -3. Now, let's look at another negative and a positive. Does anybody know what -1 + 4 is? Oh, thank you, John. Let's finish up this one, and then I know if some of you have to go. 3, it's +3. Does anybody know the trick to that? You subtract the two numbers. So 4 and 1 would be 3. 4 and 1 would be 3. And then take the sign of the larger number. So over here, -4 is larger, so it becomes -3. +4 is larger, so it becomes +3. Very good. Very good, Sarah. Another way to say it. So that's what I would do. And, you know, we did not finish this assignment, so I want you to do as much as you can tonight to finish 1112 homework assignment, but I'm actually going to extend it to be due tomorrow. Okay? Is that okay with you guys? Because I don't feel comfortable if I haven't finished a lesson making it due, just in case you have questions, okay? So you are welcome, and those people who I asked to stay after, please stay after. If you want to stay after for office a half hour, I will be here. You can just, some people yesterday just sat and did their work and then ask questions that they can, okay? And if you still have homework questions on homework 1-0, you stay and let me know, or any other questions. Okay, and we'll continue on here tomorrow, but you do as much of your homeworks as you can. All right. Any quick questions right now? I know some are already signing off, and when you do leave, please sign off, but some people I want you to stay, okay?
So we don't need to finish the assignment that was supposedly due today then?
Well, the 1-0, is that the one you're talking about?
That one was for yesterday, wasn't it?
Yeah, did you get that done, Amanda?
Yeah.
Okay, as long as you got 1-0 done, you're fine. I'm going to go in and extend 1.1 and 2 until tomorrow.
Oh, okay. I see. Thank you.
Okay, you're welcome. I'm going to do that right now. All right, any other questions? Good, Danielle. What is the question?
For some reason, I can't remember how to take a fraction and put it into a mixed fraction.
Okay, let me show you that right now. And hold on a second. I'm going to change this due date before I forget. And I'm going to double check it. Okay. Jacob, yes, the sheet is just notes and not homework. Good. So when you're doing the homework tonight, you just look at your notes if you have questions. And the homework is in my math lab. Good. So on this page under assignments, click show all, and it's that second one down, and I just changed the due date for tomorrow. Okay. Now, Jake, as far as notes go, how are you, what would you want me to do? And Danielle, I'll talk to you in a second. And if you want, Jake, we can have a private conversation through email, or you can call me on the phone. Whatever you prefer. Because I wanted to make sure I talked to you about that. All right, Daniel, I'm going to show you. Because I know. Okay, I'm just going to go to the end of this worksheet. Okay, Sunny, what I told you. Okay, bye, Sunny. Hard for me this morning. Okay, Sunny, thank you. Is the homework in the book itself as well? Okay, the homework in the book, Tish, is, I'm not really assigning homework from the book. You can use them for practice problems. The only homework I'm going to be assigning is going to be under my math lab, under assignments. And then I always want you to click on show all, and then go down to quiz. Yeah, so basically what we did in class today, right, Jake? Okay, if I don't email you today, will you just send me an email to remind me, please? And just be detailed. That would help me a lot. Why don't you just send me an email anyways, and that'll remind me to do that, okay? All right. Daniel, I'm still working on your question. Okay. Daniel, repeat your question again about fractions.
I can't remember how to do a fraction, like a normal fraction, and make it into a mixed fraction.
Okay.
Because, like, on the homework, or on our thing, I forgot. Let me look.
We're going to go both ways, okay?
Like, one of the numbers, like, I think it was the irrational, it was a fraction, and then you made it into a mixed number.
Sure. Okay. We're going to go both ways. Tish, you are correct. Okay. The one that was up above, let me find that. I know what you're talking about.
I remember you do the top times for the mixed you do top times, or the one on the side times the bottom plus the top.
And of course I can't find it right now, so I'm just going to make up my own. Okay. So, hold on a second. Okay. If I have an improper fraction like 11 over 5, okay, what you're going to do is you're going to take your top number and divide it by the bottom number, and 5 goes in 11 twice with remainder 1. So this remainder, okay, so this is your answer. So your answer would be the 2, and then your remainder over your original denominator. So let's try another one. Let's try 16 thirds. Well, let's do 17 thirds, sorry. I want you to see a little bit more. Come on. Okay. Actually, I'm going to do 20 thirds. Okay. So 20 divided by 3. I know 3 will go into 26 times with remainder 2. So my mixed number then is going to be this 6, and the remainder is your numerator, and then the denominator is the same. Does that help on that?
Yeah, now I remember.
Okay. So these are actually equivalent. They're just written in different form.
Yeah.
And if you want, are you okay with the mixed number to improper?
Yeah, mixed number is the 6 times the 3 plus the 2.
Good.
And then you use the 3 as the bottom number.
Good. So you multiply 6 times, you're going to go this direction. 6 times 3 is 18. And 18 plus 2 would give you 20, and then you use the same denominator. Good. That's how you do it.
Thanks.
You're good. You're welcome, Danielle. Thanks for being patient. Any other questions? Okay. Now, the rest of you, do you want to just stay and do your homework? Emma, Tish, Amanda, and Jessica?